Emotional manipulation is one of the most subtle forms of psychological influence and one of the hardest to recognize while it's happening. Unlike physical or verbal aggression, emotional manipulation works quietly. It works slowly, and it works by reshaping the way you think, feel, and interpret reality. Most people imagine manipulation as something loud or obvious, but in reality, the most effective manipulators don't raise their voice. They don't threaten. They don't force. Instead, they guide your emotions in a direction that benefits them, while making you believe it was your idea all along. To understand emotional manipulation, you first need to understand the foundation it's built on: emotional intelligence. Emotional manipulators are not emotionally unaware. They're not socially clumsy. They're not impulsive. In fact, they're the opposite. They're observant, they're patient, and they're skilled at reading people. They notice the small things: the shift in your tone, the hesitation in your voice, the way your eyes move when you're uncomfortable. They pay attention to what makes you open up, what makes you defensive, and what makes you feel guilty. Over time, they build a psychological map of your emotional patterns. And once they understand those patterns, they can influence them. Manipulation never begins with control. It begins with connection. A manipulator's first goal is simple: gain access to your emotional world. They do this by mirroring your personality, validating your feelings, showing interest in your experiences, offering comfort at the right moment, presenting themselves as trustworthy, calm, and understanding. This creates a sense of emotional safety. You feel seen, you feel understood, you feel like someone finally gets you. But this connection is not built for your benefit. It's built for leverage. The second stage is where things shift, quietly, subtly, almost without you noticing. Once emotional access is established, the manipulator begins to shift the balance of power, slowly, quietly, almost invisibly. They might withdraw affection when you don't behave the way they want, give you attention when you're vulnerable, use guilt to steer your decisions, make you question your reactions, reward you for compliance. And these shifts are never dramatic. They're small enough that you don't notice the pattern, but consistent enough that your behavior begins to change. You start adjusting yourself to avoid conflict. You start seeking their approval without realizing it. You start doubting your own judgment. And this is how emotional control begins. Not with force, but with tiny shifts that slowly reshape the way you think, react, and relate to them. At this point, the manipulator doesn't need to control your actions directly. They only need to influence your emotions, because emotions drive decisions. They might use gaslighting, making you question your memory, your perception, or your feelings. Guilt tripping, making you feel responsible for their emotions or reactions. Silent treatment becomes their weapon of choice, withdrawing connection just long enough to create anxiety, doubt, and a quiet pressure to fall back in line. Selective empathy, being caring when it benefits them, distant when it doesn't. And emotional overload becomes another tool, using sudden intensity, whether anger, sadness, or disappointment, to overwhelm you until you react out of fear instead of clarity. Each tactic has the same goal: to make you rely on them for emotional stability. Something important to mention is emotional dependency, the point where the manipulator no longer needs tactics, because the emotional bond itself becomes their greatest source of power. You begin to second-guess yourself, suppress your needs, avoid upsetting them, justify their behavior, feel responsible for their emotions, fear losing their approval. You don't realize it, but your emotional world has been rearranged around them. They don't need to control you directly because you've started controlling yourself. This is the core of emotional manipulation, shaping someone's emotions so subtly that they willingly give up their power. But why emotional manipulation works? Emotional manipulation works because it targets the deepest human needs: the need to feel understood, the need to feel valued, the need to feel safe, the need to avoid conflict, the need for connection. And manipulators don't overpower these needs. They use them. They don't break your boundaries. They slowly move them. They don't demand trust. They earn it, then weaponize it. People often expect manipulators to be loud, aggressive, or dramatic, but the most dangerous ones are the opposite. They're calm, they're patient, they're emotionally intelligent. They understand your feelings, and they know how to influence them. They don't force you to trust them. They make you want to. They don't push you into decisions. They guide you toward them. They don't take control. They let you hand it over. But remember, recognizing manipulation is the first step. Breaking it requires emotional distance, clear boundaries, objective perspective, support from people you trust, understanding that your feelings are valid. Manipulators lose power the moment you stop reacting emotionally, because without your emotional responses, they have nothing to work with. Emotional manipulation doesn't start with control. It starts with understanding. And the moment someone learns how you feel, they can shape how you think.